I woke up at 3 in the morning with pain so intense it felt like someone was stabbing me with a red-hot knife. The agony shot through my abdomen like lightning, doubling me over as I stumbled out of bed. Something was seriously wrong. I'd never experienced anything like this before. My name is Nick, and I'm 28 years old. I live alone in a small apartment about 15 minutes from downtown Portland, Oregon. As I clutched my side and gasped for breath, I knew I needed help immediately. I grabbed my keys with shaking hands and somehow managed to drive myself to the emergency room, barely able to focus through the waves of excruciating pain. When the doctor examined me and saw my test results, his face turned grave. My appendix had burst, and the infection was spreading throughout my abdomen. I needed emergency surgery right now, or I might not survive the night. Growing up in the Martinez family meant understanding your place in the hierarchy. My parents, David and Linda Martinez, had always treated me as the responsible one, the dependable son who never needed help or attention. I was the oldest at 28, followed by my sister Emma, who was 25 and had been the golden child since birth. Emma got the family's attention, support, and financial help whenever she needed it. When she wanted to go to private college, they found the money. When she needed a car, they bought her a brand new Honda. When she moved to Portland for her marketing job, they helped with her down payment on a condo. Me, I put myself through community college, worked 2 jobs to buy my own car, and saved for 3 years to afford my apartment. This vacation to the Bahamas had been planned for months. It was supposed to be a celebration of Dad's 65th birthday, and Emma had convinced them to make it a big family reunion with aunts, uncles, and cousins flying in from different states. The total cost was somewhere around $8,000, and Emma had been posting countdown photos on Instagram for weeks, showing off the designer bikinis and sundresses she'd bought specifically for the trip. As I lay on the hospital gurney, the emergency room doctor, Dr. Patricia Williams, explained the severity of my condition. My appendix hadn't just burst recently. Based on my symptoms and the scan results, it had likely ruptured several hours ago, and peritonitis was setting in. The infection was spreading through my abdominal cavity, and without immediate surgery, the situation could become life-threatening within hours. The procedure could take anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, depending on how much infected tissue they needed to remove and clean out. "Is there someone we can call for you?" Dr. Williams asked gently. "This is major surgery, and you'll need support during recovery." I nodded and pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. It was 3:45 in the morning. I called my mom first. "Nick? What's wrong?" Mom's voice was groggy but immediately alert. I could hear rustling in the background, probably Dad stirring awake. "Mom, I'm at the hospital. My appendix burst and I need emergency surgery right now. The doctor says it's really serious. Can you and Dad come?" There was a pause. Then I heard whispering between my parents. "Honey, we're literally packing right now. Our flight leaves at 6 this morning. We've been planning this trip for months, and everyone is expecting us. Emma would be absolutely devastated if we canceled. You'll be fine. You're strong. You've always been able to handle things on your own." My heart sank. "Mom, the doctor said there are complications. I could die from this infection." "Don't be so dramatic, Nick. You're in good hands with the doctors. We'll call you when we land, okay? Love you, sweetie." The line went dead. I stared at my phone in disbelief, then called Emma. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding annoyed. "Nick, why are you calling me at 4 in the morning?" "Emma, I'm having emergency surgery. My appendix burst and I'm really scared. Can you come to the hospital?" I heard her laughing in the background, probably at something on her phone. "Nick, seriously? You always make everything about you. This is Dad's special birthday trip. We've been planning this for forever, and I've spent like $2,000 on clothes and excursions. Stop being so selfish and dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic. The doctor says I could die from the infection." "You're not going to die from appendix surgery. People get that done every day. Look, I'm posting my final packing stories right now, and then I need to sleep for like an hour before we leave. Don't ruin this trip for everyone with your anxiety." She hung up. My hands were shaking as I called my dad's cell phone. "Son, your mother told me what's happening. I'm sure you'll be fine. We've spent $8,000 on this trip and frankly we can't afford to lose that money. You're in good hands with the doctors. Call us if you need anything after the surgery. Click. Dial tone. I sat there on the gurney, staring at the consent forms the nurse had given me. They listed all the potential complications: bleeding, infection, damage to surrounding organs, allergic reactions to anesthesia, and in rare cases, death. I was supposed to list emergency contacts, but apparently mine were too busy boarding a plane to care whether I lived or died. Nurse Jenny Rodriguez, a kind woman in her 50s with graying hair and warm brown eyes, noticed I was alone and pulled up a chair beside my bed. "No family coming?" she asked gently. I shook my head, unable to trust my voice. She patted my hand. "I've been doing this for 25 years, honey. You're going to be just fine. Dr. Williams is one of the best surgeons we have, and I'll be here when you wake up." As they wheeled me toward the operating room, I made the mistake of checking my phone one more time. Emma had just posted a Snapchat story showing her suitcases packed by the door with the caption, "Bahamas, here we come. No drama can stop this family vacation." The timestamp showed she'd posted it just 2 minutes ago, right after hanging up on me. The anesthesia mask came down over my face, and my last conscious thought was wondering if I'd ever wake up to see my family again, or if they'd even care if I didn't. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My throat was raw from the breathing tube, my abdomen felt like it was on fire, and I was connected to more machines than I'd ever seen in one place. The ICU was dimly lit, and it took me several minutes to remember where I was and what had happened. A different nurse, Marcus Thompson, was checking my vitals. "Welcome back to the land of the living," he said with a smile. "You gave us quite a scare in there. How long was I out?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "Surgery took 9 hours. You've been sleeping for another 6. It's Wednesday afternoon now. Wednesday afternoon." That meant my family had been in the Bahamas for over 24 hours. Dr. Williams appeared at my bedside, looking tired but relieved. "Nick, you're incredibly lucky to be alive. Your appendix had actually ruptured much earlier than we initially thought, probably around midnight or even earlier. The infection had spread significantly through your abdominal cavity. We had to remove a considerable amount of infected tissue and flush out the entire area. You crashed twice during surgery, but you fought your way back both times." The next few days were a blur of pain, medications, and slow recovery. I couldn't keep food down for 3 days straight. The IV antibiotics made me nauseous and gave me vivid hallucinations. I'd see Emma standing in the corner of my room, then blink, and she'd be gone. Sometimes I thought I heard my parents talking to the nurses, but it was always just the sound of other families visiting their loved ones. Nurse Jenny became my anchor during those dark days. She worked the day shift and would always find reasons to check on me, even when I wasn't technically her patient. She brought extra blankets when I couldn't stop shivering from the medication, and she stayed past her shift on Thursday evening when I had a panic attack about being alone. "I've never had surgery before," I confided to her on Friday morning. "I keep thinking about what could have gone wrong. What if I had died and nobody even knew for days?" "But you didn't die," Jenny said firmly. "You're here, you're healing, and you're stronger than you know." The hardest part wasn't the physical pain. It was lying in that hospital bed, watching Emma's Instagram stories on my phone like some kind of masochist. Every few hours, she'd post new photos and videos, the family laughing on white sand beaches, expensive dinners at resort restaurants overlooking turquoise water, Dad's birthday celebration with a custom cake shaped like a fishing boat, Emma modeling her new bikinis with captions like, "Living my best life and grateful for family time." On Thursday, she posted a photo of the whole family raising tropical drinks in a toast with the caption, "Family first. Nothing better than being surrounded by people who love you." I stared at that post for 20 minutes, feeling something break inside my chest that had nothing to do with surgery. I tried calling several times throughout the week, but every call went straight to voicemail. Either their phones were off, or they were actively declining my calls. I left messages the first few days, but eventually stopped trying. Dr. Williams explained that I'd need at least 2 more weeks in the hospital for IV antibiotics and monitoring, followed by 6 to 8 weeks of limited activity at home. The infection had been so severe that my recovery would be longer than typical appendix patients. On Sunday morning, exactly 1 week after my surgery, a woman in a blazer appeared at my bedside with a clipboard and a concerned expression. "Mr. Martinez? I'm Susan Chen, the hospital social worker. I need to ask you some questions about your support system. Is everything okay?" "Well, that's what I'm trying to determine. According to your medical records, you listed 3 emergency contacts: your parents, David and Linda Martinez, and your sister, Emma Martinez. Our staff has attempted to call these numbers multiple times over the past week to provide updates about your condition and discuss your care plan. We've left over a dozen voicemails with no response." My stomach dropped. "They're on vacation. I understand that, but this was a life-threatening medical emergency. You nearly died twice during surgery. Hospital protocol requires us to document cases where patients face serious medical crises without any family support, especially when we have evidence that family members were contacted and chose not to respond." Susan made notes on her clipboard as she spoke. "We're required to file a report with social services about family abandonment in medical emergencies. This is particularly concerning because you're still quite ill, and you'll need significant support during your recovery period." After Susan left, I lay there staring at the ceiling, processing what had just happened. It wasn't just that my family had missed my surgery for a vacation. They'd been actively ignoring calls from the hospital about my condition. They'd chosen to let their phones go to voicemail rather than find out whether I was alive or dead. For the first time since the surgery, I cried. Not from physical pain, but from the crushing realization that I truly was alone in the world. By my 2nd week in the hospital, Nurse Jenny had become more than just my caregiver. She'd become my friend, my surrogate family member, the person who made sure I wasn't completely alone during the most frightening experience of my life. She brought me books from the hospital library, helped me video call with my boss to arrange extended medical leave, and even brought homemade soup from her own kitchen when I finally started eating solid foods again. On a quiet Tuesday morning, Jenny sat down in the chair beside my bed with a thoughtful expression. "Nick, I hope you don't mind me asking, but would you be comfortable if I shared your story?" "What do you mean?" "Well, our hospital has a Facebook page where we sometimes post patient recovery stories. It helps inspire the community and shows people the amazing things that happen here every day. Your recovery really has been miraculous, and your positive attitude despite everything you've been through has inspired our entire staff. I was thinking maybe people should hear about it. I considered this. Part of me wanted to stay private, to keep my family's abandonment hidden out of shame. But another part of me thought maybe sharing my story could help other people who felt alone during medical crises. What would you say? Just the truth. That you faced a life-threatening emergency with incredible courage, that you nearly died but fought your way back, and that you've shown all of us what resilience really looks like." I nodded slowly. "Okay. If you think it might help someone else, then yes." That afternoon, Jenny posted a photo on Portland General Hospital's Facebook page. It showed me sitting up in bed, smiling weakly but genuinely, wearing a hospital gown with my IV lines visible. The post read, "We want to share the inspiring story of one of our patients, Nick Martinez, who is recovering from a life-threatening ruptured appendix. Nick faced emergency surgery completely alone after his family was unable to be present due to prior commitments. Despite the serious complications and a difficult recovery, Nick has maintained a positive attitude that has inspired our entire medical team. His courage in facing this crisis without family support shows the incredible strength of the human spirit. Nick's recovery is truly miraculous, and we're honored to be part of his journey back to health." Stories like Nick's remind us why we became healthcare workers in the first place. Within an hour, the post had 50 likes and 20 comments from community members sending well wishes. By evening, it had been shared 200 times. People were commenting with offers to visit, bring food, and provide support during my recovery. But the real explosion happened overnight. Someone had screenshot Jenny's post and shared it on Reddit with the title, "Hospital Shares Story of Man Who Survived Life-Threatening Surgery Alone While Family Was on Vacation." The Reddit thread gained thousands of upvotes and comments, with people sharing their own stories of family abandonment and medical crises. From there, the story jumped to Twitter, where it became a trending topic with hashtags like Family First and Medical Abandonment. A local Portland news station picked up the story on Wednesday morning, running a segment titled, "Man Recovers from Near-Fatal Surgery While Family Vacations in Bahamas." By Wednesday evening, the story had reached national news outlets. CNN ran a piece about family priorities during medical emergencies. Good Morning America mentioned it during their health segment. The story was spreading faster than I could track, with thousands of supportive messages flooding the hospital's social media pages. My phone started buzzing constantly with friend requests, messages from strangers offering support, and interview requests from journalists. The hospital's public relations department had to assign someone specifically to handle the media attention around my case. What amazed me most were the personal stories people shared in the comments. Dozens of people wrote about times when their families had abandoned them during medical emergencies, relationship crises, or other difficult periods. My story had somehow given others permission to talk about their own experiences with family dysfunction and abandonment. A local restaurant owner offered to cater meals for my entire recovery period. A Portland florist sent arrangements with a note saying, "You're not alone." 3 different people offered to drive me to follow-up appointments. Complete strangers were treating me with more kindness and support than my own family had shown. But the most significant response came from an unexpected source. On Thursday morning, Jenny showed me a printout of a LinkedIn message that had been forwarded through the hospital administration. It was from someone named Patricia Walsh, who identified herself as a senior partner at Sullivan and Associates Marketing, one of Portland's most prestigious advertising firms. I saw the story about Nick Martinez's medical crisis. The message read, "I believe I employ his sister Emma Martinez in our account management department. Is this the same family? I'm trying to understand the situation, as Emma recently requested extended time off for what she described as a critical family celebration that couldn't be interrupted. If this is the same family, I need to have a conversation with Miss Martinez about our company values regarding family obligations during genuine emergencies." My heart started racing. Emma worked at Sullivan and Associates. It was the job she'd dreamed about since college, the position that had convinced her to move to Portland in the first place. The company was known for its image-conscious client base and strict standards about employee conduct both in and out of the office. I stared at the message, realizing that my viral story was about to collide with Emma's carefully crafted professional life. For the first time since my surgery, I felt something other than sadness and abandonment. I felt the stirring of justice beginning to unfold. My family's flight landed in Miami on Thursday afternoon, connecting through to Portland that evening. They'd been blissfully unaware of the media storm brewing back home, posting final vacation photos and lamenting the end of their Bahamas paradise. Emma's last Instagram story showed her on the plane with a caption reading, "Back to reality, already missing family time and beach vibes." Reality hit them like a freight train the moment they turned their phones back on after landing in Portland. Emma's voicemail was completely full. She had 43 missed calls, including several from her boss Patricia Walsh marked as urgent. Her work email contained a terse message, requesting an immediate meeting first thing Friday morning to discuss a sensitive personnel matter. Her personal social media accounts had been flooded with comments from strangers who'd connected her vacation posts to my viral story. Mom and Dad faced their own nightmare. Dad's business phone had 17 voicemails from clients and business partners asking about the family situation they'd seen in the news. Mom's Facebook profile, which she'd left public, was filled with hostile comments from Portland community members who'd recognized the family name and connected the dots. Their neighborhood WhatsApp group, normally full of casual chatter about lost cats and trash pickup schedules, had exploded with discussions about my story. Several neighbors had recognized our last name and connected it to the viral hospital post. The worst part was that Emma's own social media activity had created a perfect timeline of evidence. Her vacation posts, time-stamped and geotagged, showed the exact progression of family fun that had occurred while I fought for my life in intensive care. By Thursday night, they'd finally figured out that the viral story was about me. That's when my phone rang for the first time in 2 weeks. "Nick?" It was Mom's voice, but she sounded shaken and uncertain. "We just landed and saw the news. What's going on?" "What's going on is that I nearly died from a ruptured appendix, spent 2 weeks in the hospital alone, and someone shared my story online. We had no idea it was this serious. Why didn't you tell us how bad it was?" I sat up straighter in my hospital bed, feeling anger surge through me for the first time since the ordeal began. "I called you from the emergency room. I told you I might die. You said not to be dramatic and hung up on me." There was silence on the other end. Then I heard whispering between my parents. "Well, we're home now." Dad's voice came on the line. "How do we fix this mess? This is making our whole family look bad." "Fix what mess?" "This story has gotten completely out of control. People are saying terrible things about us online. Your mother can't even go to book club anymore because everyone's talking about it." Before I could respond, I heard Emma's voice in the background, and then she grabbed the phone. "Nick, what the hell is wrong with you?" Emma's voice was shaking with rage. "Do you have any idea what you've done to my career? My boss is demanding a meeting tomorrow morning, and half of Portland thinks I'm some kind of monster. You need to call that hospital right now and tell them to take down that post." "I didn't post anything, Emma. The hospital shared my recovery story because the nurses were inspired by how I handled facing death alone." "You could have died? Don't be so dramatic. It was just appendix surgery." I crashed twice on the operating table. I was in intensive care for a week. The doctors said if I'd waited even a few more hours, the infection would have killed me. There was a long pause. When Emma spoke again, her voice was different, smaller. "We didn't know it was that serious, because you didn't answer your phones. The hospital tried to call you dozens of times to update you on my condition. You ignored every single call. We were on vacation. Our phones were on airplane mode most of the time. Your Instagram posts show you had internet access every single day. You were posting stories constantly." Another silence. Then Emma's voice returned, cold and calculating. "Look, what's done is done. But you need to do damage control now. Give an interview saying there was a misunderstanding, that we're a close family who supports each other. Say the hospital post was misleading." "Absolutely not. Nick, this could ruin my entire career. Sullivan and Associates is the kind of company that cares about image and family values. If they think I abandoned my brother during a medical emergency, they'll fire me. Maybe they should. How can you be so selfish? This is my dream job, and this was my life, which apparently mattered less to you than Dad's birthday party." That's when I heard a new voice in the background. Uncle Robert, Dad's estranged brother, was apparently at their house. "Let me talk to him," I heard Uncle Robert say, and then his familiar voice came on the line. "Nick, this is Uncle Robert. I flew in from Seattle when I saw the story online. Are you okay?" Uncle Robert. I hadn't talked to him in 3 years, not since the big family blow-up that had caused him and Dad to stop speaking. But he was here now, asking if I was okay, which was more than my immediate family had done. "Uncle Robert, you came here?" "Of course I came. You're my nephew, and you almost died. I'm at your parents' house right now picking up some of your clothes and personal items. I'll be at the hospital in an hour." For the first time in 2 weeks, I felt like someone actually cared whether I lived or died. But the conversation in the background was getting heated. I could hear Dad yelling at Uncle Robert about stirring up more drama, and Emma demanding that someone fix this disaster. The call ended abruptly, but an hour later, Uncle Robert walked into my hospital room carrying a duffel bag and the biggest flower arrangement I'd ever seen. "Hey, kiddo," he said, and I started crying before he even reached my bedside. Friday morning arrived like a reckoning. Emma dressed carefully for work, choosing her most professional blazer and practicing her explanation in the bathroom mirror. She'd spent the entire night crafting a story about family miscommunication and media exaggeration, hoping she could salvage her career with Sullivan and Associates. The marketing firm occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in downtown Portland, known for representing high-profile clients who valued image and reputation management above all else. Emma had worked there for 2 years, climbing from junior associate to account coordinator, with dreams of making senior account manager by her 30th birthday. Patricia Walsh's office was on the top floor, overlooking the Columbia River. Patricia was in her 50s, impeccably dressed, and known throughout Portland's business community as someone who didn't tolerate any behavior that could reflect poorly on her company's reputation. Emma knocked on the office door at exactly 8 a.m. "Come in, Emma. Please sit down." Patricia's desk was clean except for a laptop, a coffee cup, and a manila folder that made Emma's stomach clench with dread. "I think you know why we're meeting this morning. Mrs. Walsh, I can explain everything. There's been a huge misunderstanding, and the media has completely blown this story out of proportion." Patricia opened the folder, revealing printed screenshots of Emma's Instagram and Snapchat posts from the previous week. Every vacation photo, every beach selfie, every family dinner picture was there, along with timestamps and captions. "Emma, our company's core values include family first and compassion in crisis. These aren't just words on our website. They represent how we expect our employees to live their lives because our clients trust us to understand and represent their family-oriented brands." Emma's mouth went dry. "I understand that, and I want you to know that my family is very close. This whole situation has been misrepresented." Patricia turned her laptop screen toward Emma. It showed a news article titled, "Marketing Executive Celebrated on Beach While Brother Nearly Died Alone." 3 of our major clients called me yesterday afternoon: the Henderson Family Foundation, Pacific Northwest Children's Charity, and Cascade Bank. All 3 organizations specifically mentioned this story and expressed concerns about whether Sullivan and Associates employs people who share their values about family and community support. Emma felt the room spinning. Those were her 3 biggest accounts, representing over $2 million in annual billings. "Mrs. Walsh, my brother didn't tell us how serious his condition was. We thought it was routine surgery. If we'd known he might die, we never would have stayed on vacation." Patricia pulled out another document. This is a copy of the hospital's call log, which was included in the news report this morning. It shows 17 attempted calls to your family's emergency contact numbers over a 6-day period. The calls were specifically about complications, life-threatening infections, and critical condition updates. Our phones were on airplane mode. According to your social media posts, you had internet access throughout your vacation. You posted 16 Instagram stories and 12 Facebook updates during the same 6-day period when the hospital was trying to reach your family. Emma stared at the evidence laid out in front of her, realizing that every vacation post she'd shared had become a piece of evidence against her. "Emma, I'm going to be direct with you. Your promotion to senior account manager, which was supposed to be announced next week, is no longer happening. You're being reassigned to junior-level projects, effective immediately. You'll also be placed on performance probation for 6 months. Mrs. Walsh, please. This job means everything to me, and your brother's life should have meant everything to your family. I'm sorry, Emma, but this decision is final." Meanwhile, across town, Dad's construction business was facing its own crisis. Martinez Construction had built its reputation on being a family-owned company that treated clients like extended family. Dad's business partner, Tom Sullivan, had fielded calls all morning from current and potential clients who'd seen the story. Cedar Hills Country Club, where Dad had been bidding on a major renovation project, called to withdraw their contract consideration. "We can't work with a company whose values don't align with ours," the club manager explained. "Family loyalty is fundamental to everything we do here." 2 other clients, representing nearly $300,000 in upcoming projects, called with similar concerns. The story wasn't just about a family conflict. It was about character, values, and the kind of people they wanted to do business with. Dad spent the morning on damage control calls, but the family's public behavior had created an irreparable reputation problem in Portland's close-knit business community. Back at the hospital, Uncle Robert had spent the night in the reclining chair beside my bed. We'd talked until 3 in the morning, catching up on 3 years of estrangement and filling in the gaps that family dysfunction had created. "This isn't the first time they've done something like this," Uncle Robert told me. "Your dad and I stopped talking because they pulled the same stunt when my wife Helen was dying of cancer. Her funeral was the same weekend as Emma's college graduation, and your parents decided that Emma's graduation was more important than saying goodbye to Helen. I stared at him in shock. I never knew that. Your parents have a pattern of prioritizing image and celebrations over genuine family crises. I tried to maintain a relationship with you kids, but your dad made it clear I wasn't welcome anymore. As we talked, I realized that my viral story had exposed something much bigger than one abandoned surgery. It had revealed a family system built on conditional love, where support was only available when it was convenient and didn't interfere with more enjoyable plans. My phone buzzed with a news alert. The story had been picked up by a national morning show, and they were running a segment about family obligations during medical emergencies. My hospital room phone started ringing with interview requests from major media outlets. "What do you want to do with all this attention?" Uncle Robert asked. I thought carefully before answering. For the first time in my life, I had a platform, a voice, and the power to speak truth about family dysfunction and emotional abandonment. The question was whether I'd use it for revenge or for something more meaningful. Over the next week, while still recovering in the hospital, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. Instead of using my platform for revenge against my family, I chose to use it for something constructive. I accepted an invitation to appear on Portland Morning Live, the city's most popular local television show. The interview was scheduled for the following Friday, exactly 3 weeks after my surgery. Uncle Robert helped me prepare, not by coaching me on what to say about my family, but by helping me think about what message I wanted to share with the community that had supported me so generously. When I walked onto the set, still moving slowly from surgery but dressed in the new clothes Uncle Robert had bought me, I felt nervous but determined. The host, Sarah Chen, was known for her warm but direct interviewing style. "Nick, thank you for joining us. First, how are you feeling?" "Physically, I'm healing well thanks to the incredible medical team at Portland General. Emotionally, I've learned more about resilience and community support in the past 3 weeks than I learned in the previous 28 years of my life. Your story has really touched people. Can you tell us what this experience has taught you?" "I've learned that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about who shows up when you need them most. The nurses who stayed late to comfort me, the strangers who sent flowers and offered meals, the community members who reached out with support. That's what real family looks like. What would you say to your biological family if they were watching right now?" This was the moment everyone was waiting for. The opportunity for me to express anger, demand apologies, or publicly shame them. Instead, I took a deep breath and chose a different path. I'd say that I hope they can celebrate together for many years to come. I'm grateful that they were able to have that time as a family, even though the timing was difficult for me. I've learned that holding on to anger only hurts the person carrying it. Sarah looked surprised by my response. "You're not angry about what happened?" I was angry at first, but I've realized that anger was just covering up the deeper hurt of feeling unloved and unimportant. Now I'm focused on building relationships with people who genuinely care about my well-being. What's next for you? I'm working with Portland General Hospital to develop a support program for patients who don't have family support during medical crises. We want to create a network of volunteers who can provide companionship, practical help, and emotional support for people facing health emergencies alone. The response to the interview was immediate and overwhelming. By that evening, over 200 people had contacted the hospital volunteering for the patient support program. Local businesses offered funding, and a major healthcare foundation expressed interest in making it a model for hospitals across the Pacific Northwest. My mature response to the situation had actually made me more sympathetic to the public, not less. People respected that I'd chosen grace over revenge, healing over hatred. But the interview also had an unintended consequence for my family. By explicitly forgiving them and wishing them well, I'd made their continued silence and lack of genuine apology look even worse by comparison. The contrast between my public grace and their private dysfunction became a topic of discussion in local news commentary and social media. Emma made a desperate attempt to rehabilitate her image by volunteering for my new patient support program, posting about it prominently on social media with captions about family healing and giving back to the community. When the program coordinator called to discuss Emma's application, I had to make a difficult decision. I appreciate her interest in volunteering, I told the coordinator, but this program is specifically designed to help people who understand what it means to face medical crises without family support. I think Emma would be better served by finding volunteer opportunities that match her different life experiences. It was a polite but firm no. Emma's attempt to use my program for image rehabilitation had backfired. Meanwhile, Uncle Robert had made me an offer that would change everything. "Nick, I want you to consider moving to Seattle," he said one evening as we walked slowly around the hospital corridors during my physical therapy time. "I run a successful tech consulting company, and I could use someone with your integrity and work ethic. Plus, it might be good for you to get a fresh start somewhere new." "What kind of work?" "We help small businesses develop their digital marketing strategies. It's growing fast, and I need someone I can trust to help manage client relationships and expand into new markets." The offer was tempting for many reasons. Seattle would give me distance from the family drama, a chance to build a career with someone who actually valued me, and the opportunity to start over in a city where I wasn't known as the guy whose family abandoned him during surgery. "I'd love that," I told him. "But I want to get this patient support program established first. I have a responsibility to the people who helped me." "That's exactly why I want you to work with me," Uncle Robert smiled. "You understand commitment and follow through." 2 weeks later, I was discharged from the hospital with a clean bill of health and a plan for my new life. The patient support program had officially launched with 40 trained volunteers and funding secured for the first year. Local media covered the launch as a positive follow-up to my original story. But the most significant moment came during my final television interview before leaving Portland. "Nick, there's been a lot of speculation about whether your family has apologized or tried to reconcile with you," the reporter asked. "Can you give us an update on that situation?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "I've received some communications from family members, but unfortunately, those contacts have been focused on damage control rather than genuine reconciliation. They've asked me to publicly minimize what happened or help repair their reputations, but I haven't received any acknowledgement of the pain they caused or any real apology for abandoning me during a life-threatening crisis." The reporter pressed further. "What would a genuine apology look like to you?" "It would start with taking responsibility for their choices without making excuses. It would include acknowledgement that I could have died alone because of their decision to prioritize vacation over family emergency. And it would involve changed behavior, not just words." That interview clip went viral again, shared by thousands of people who'd experienced similar family dysfunction and abandonment. My honest assessment of my family's continued focus on image over genuine relationship resonated with viewers who'd faced their own experiences of conditional love and superficial family connections. 3 days later, I loaded my belongings into Uncle Robert's truck and drove north toward Seattle and my new life. 6 months later, my life had transformed in ways I never could have imagined during those dark days in the hospital. Seattle had become home, and working with Uncle Robert's company, Pacific Northwest Digital Solutions, had given me both career satisfaction and financial stability I'd never experienced before. Uncle Robert had been more than an employer. He'd become the father figure I'd needed my entire life. He taught me about business strategy, client relations, and leadership, but more importantly, he showed me what healthy family relationships actually looked like. We had dinner together twice a week. He remembered important dates, and when I caught the flu in November, he brought me soup and checked on me daily until I recovered. My patient support program at Portland General had exceeded every expectation. In 6 months, trained volunteers had helped over 200 patients navigate medical crises without family support. The program had been featured in Healthcare Today magazine as an innovative model for patient care, and 3 other hospitals in Washington and Oregon had implemented similar programs. I'd also met someone special. Sarah Martinez, ironically sharing my last name despite no family relation, was a nurse who'd relocated from Portland to Seattle for a position at Swedish Medical Center. We'd connected at a healthcare conference where I'd been invited to speak about patient advocacy and support systems. Sarah understood my experience in ways most people couldn't. She'd grown up in a similar family dynamic, where love and support were conditional on meeting certain expectations and maintaining family image. Our relationship was built on genuine care, shared values, and the understanding that real love shows up during difficult times, not just convenient ones. On a rainy Tuesday in March, exactly 8 months after my surgery, I received an unexpected call from my sister Emma. "Nick, it's Emma. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know that I've been going to therapy." I was surprised by the humility in her voice. "How are you doing?" "Honestly, not great. I lost my job at Sullivan & Associates after another incident where I prioritized my image over helping a colleague during a family crisis. I've had trouble finding new employment because my reputation in Portland marketing circles is pretty much destroyed. But the therapy has helped me understand some things about myself and our family that I never saw before." She paused, and I could hear her crying softly. "Nick, I want to give you a real apology. Not because I want something from you or because I'm trying to fix my reputation, but because I finally understand how wrong I was and how much pain I caused you. I'm listening. When you called us from the hospital, I knew you were scared, and I knew you needed us. But I chose to convince myself that you were being dramatic because it was easier than dealing with the inconvenience of changing our vacation plans. I prioritized Dad's birthday party and my Instagram content over my brother's life, and that choice nearly cost me the most important relationship I have." She took a shaky breath before continuing. "I've realized that I learned from Mom and Dad to treat love as conditional, to only show up for people when it doesn't cost me anything. I became the kind of person who abandons family during emergencies, and I'm horrified by what that says about my character." "Emma, please let me finish. You almost died, and instead of rushing to be with you, I posted beach photos and complained about you being dramatic. When the story went viral, my first thought wasn't concern for your well-being or shame about my behavior. It was anger that your medical crisis was inconveniencing my career. I've seen the therapy as helping you gain perspective. I want you to know that I don't expect forgiveness, and I'm not asking you to let me back into your life. I just needed you to know that I finally understand the magnitude of what I did, and I'm truly deeply sorry." It was the apology I'd needed to hear, not for reconciliation, but for closure. "Thank you for saying that, Emma. I can hear that you've done real work to understand what happened. Are you happy in Seattle?" "I am. I've built a life with people who show up for each other during hard times, not just good times." We talked for another 20 minutes. Emma told me that Mom and Dad were also struggling with the long-term consequences of their choices. Dad's business had downsized significantly, and their social standing in Portland had never recovered. But more importantly, they were finally beginning to understand that they'd lost their son not because of a viral story, but because of decades of conditional love and emotional abandonment. "They want to apologize too," Emma said, "but they're afraid you won't take their call." "I'm not ready for that conversation yet," I said honestly. "Maybe someday, but not now." A month later, Uncle Robert and I were reviewing applications for expanding our business when my phone rang. It was Portland General Hospital. "Nick, this is Dr. Williams. I have some news that I thought you'd want to hear personally. Your sister Emma has been admitted here after a serious car accident. She's stable, but she's asking for you." My heart stopped. "Is she okay?" "She has multiple fractures and will need surgery, but she's going to recover. The thing is, Nick, she's completely alone. According to the emergency contact information, her parents are attending a business conference in Chicago and have indicated they can't leave early due to prior commitments." The irony was staggering. Emma was now in the exact position I'd been in 8 months earlier, facing surgery alone while family prioritized other commitments. "I'll be there," I said without hesitation. "Nick, you don't have to do this," Uncle Robert said after I explained the situation. "Yes, I do. Not because I owe her anything, but because I've become the kind of person who shows up during emergencies. That's who I choose to be." Sarah offered to come with me for support, and the three of us drove to Portland that evening. When I walked into Emma's hospital room, she looked shocked to see me. "Nick, you came?" "Of course I came. But after everything I did to you..." "Emma, what you did was wrong, and it caused real damage to our relationship. But you're my sister, and you're hurt and alone. I'm not going to abandon you the way you abandoned me." She started crying. "I don't deserve this. This isn't about what you deserve. It's about what kind of person I choose to be." I stayed with Emma through her surgery and the first 2 days of her recovery. We talked honestly about our family, about the patterns of dysfunction we'd both learned, and about the possibility of building a healthier relationship based on genuine care rather than obligation or convenience. On the day I returned to Seattle, Emma gave me a letter she'd written during her recovery. "I want you to have this," she said. "It's not an attempt to earn forgiveness or fix our relationship. It's just my commitment to become the kind of person who deserves to have a brother like you." As I drove north toward home, toward Sarah and Uncle Robert, and the life I'd built from the ashes of family abandonment, I felt something I'd never experienced before: complete peace with my choices and my relationships. I'd learned that real family isn't about blood relations or shared last names. It's about people who choose to love you consistently, who show up during emergencies, and who celebrate your successes without jealousy or competition. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Dinner's ready when you get home. Uncle Robert is making his famous lasagna and wants to hear all about how Emma's doing." Home. I had a real home now, with people who genuinely cared about my well-being. The greatest victory wasn't that my family had finally faced consequences for their abandonment. The greatest victory was that I'd broken the cycle of conditional love and built authentic relationships based on mutual care and respect. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming everything the people who hurt you could never be: loyal, compassionate, and genuinely present for the people you love. What experiences have you had with family members who only show up when it's convenient for them? Have you ever had to choose between maintaining toxic family relationships and protecting your own well-being? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more stories about overcoming family dysfunction and building authentic relationships. Share this with someone who might need to hear that they deserve people who show up during their darkest moments, not just their brightest ones. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you have the power to break cycles of conditional love and create the family you deserve, whether that's through blood relations who choose to grow or chosen family who truly understand what love looks like in action.